Let us resume our discussion on the Holomen by T.S. Eliot. In my last lectures, I have completed the first and the second section of this particular poem. Now let us continue our discussion with the third stanza of this poem. Now here in this particular stanza, you will find that Eliot has made a description of the wasteland and the description of the Death's Dream Kingdom where the Hollow Men actually reside. Now, here it begins in this particular fashion. This is the dead land. This is cactus land. So fundamentally, the same kind of image, the same kind of orientation is always being associated by Eliot's description of the wasteland as Eliot described in the wasteland. Now, the reference to the dead land and cactus land is always being posited by Eliot also in the wasteland. In the wasteland, as we can know, that Eliot is always positing, he is always showing some possibility of salvation. As we know, because towards the end of the poem, we can find that Eliot is proposing Shanti, okay, the peace, the essential peace that can be found in the form of datta dayadvam damayata, that means to give, to sympathize, to control. But while describing the wasteland, he was referring to the stone images recurrently. You know, this is the dead land, this is the cactus land, what he says in the Hollow Men. So ultimately, you will find that Eliot is propagating, he is positing his conception regarding the lack of spiritualism, the lack of spiritual perspectives being incorporated in the wasteland in this particular Death's Dream Kingdom, and fundamentally the lack of water that is significantly being associated everywhere. Now the question is why water is considered to be solely important in the poems like the Hollow Men or maybe the Wasteland. You know that water is a medium with which the soul can be cleansed. It is not simply referring to the cleansing of your body, rather it is the cleansing of your soul, it is the cleansing of your mind. And it is not simply in Christianity that the holy water is always being incorporated, but ultimately you will find that in Hinduism and also in the different kinds of religions, whether it is the pagan or Christian, everywhere the water is considered to be solely important for cleansing your mind, cleansing your soul, and obviously cleansing your body. So therefore, you know, that when there is a lack of water, because you will find that the reference of the dead land has been incorporated by Eliot in the wasteland, and there was a particular kind of a search for this particular holy water there. And at one point, Eliot writes that ultimately the water was dripping there, drip, drop, drop. So ultimately, what I'm trying to suggest here, that the lack of fertility, okay, the lack of any kind of life is being always being incorporated with the wasteland in terms of the the Death's Dream Kingdom. So while the description is being posited there, you will find that the reference to cactus, okay, and also the term cactus or this kind of greenery is being incorporated or will be incorporated in the fifth section of this particular poem with the concept of the prickly pear in case of the transformation with the mulberry bush. So I will come to that later while I will going through the fifth section of this poem. So here he says that this is the dead land, this is the cactus land. And with these two orientation, actually Eliot incorporating the lack of fertility, the lack of regeneration. That means the place is completely degenerated, the place is completely decayed, it is say devoid of any kind of fertility. So all these things have been taken for consideration. And then he writes here means it is Death's Dream Kingdom, here means it is the wasteland. The stone images are raised, okay. Fundamentally, if you read Eliot's poems, it is not simply Dante's Vita Nova or Divine Comedy. Rather, you will find that there are ample references of Old Testament and also the New Testament, specifically Old Testament. And now, if you go through the stories of Old Testament, now if you think about the Israelites, the followers of Moses, then you will find that when Moses was he was going to the mountain to get the 10 commandments, then what happened there? The Israelites, they are trying to create a golden calf. that is obviously being related with some, the stone images and something like that. So ultimately, the failure of the orientation, the failure of these kinds of things, where you are just creating the lifeless idols, and this idol worship is always being negated by a true Christian or the Anglican like T.S. Eliot. So somehow the stone images are raised. Here they receive the supplication of a dead man's hand. So everywhere you will find that the stone images are posited antithetical to that of Christianity, that of holy water, that of Trinity, okay? That is the God, Son of God and Holy Ghost. So all these things have been taken for consideration here. The stone images, it actually indicates something referring to lifelessness. It cannot be related with the typical anthropological orientations of some pagan culture, where you will find that the fertility god is being incorporated, as you can find in the Westland too, because it is the stone images, so there is no particular possibility of fertility or regeneration. And again, the meaninglessness is being always being posited here. So here the stone images are raised, and here they receive the supplication of a dead man's hand. So that supplication of a dead man's hand, it is something ironical, as you can see. As you will find in the first section, the Manjujan writes, these lines evoke a distilled vision of the landscape of the West End, as I mentioned. The stone images recall the heap of broken images in the Westland and allude to God's judgment upon the people of Israel for worshipping false idols. That is the fundamental thing that I was trying to suggest. And your images may be cut down. It is being posited. It is being pointed out in Ezekiel. The emphatic use of the demonstrative this and here stresses the distance between the dead land of the hollow man and the dead's other kingdom, surely. But while there is the reference to the supplication of a dead man's hand, it is perhaps a parody of the twilight scene in Purgatorio. Okay, Purgatorio 8, where Dante sees one of the penitential spirits joining and raising both its palms as if it said to God, "For aught else I care not," and devoutly singing a hymn. Here, in contrast, it is stone images that receive the supplication of the hollow man. So therefore, always the orientation, as I've already mentioned in my previous lectures, the orientation to crime, punishment and redemption, that is being always considered as solely important in the Christianity. The penitentiary theme is always being there. So ultimately, the redemption can also be can only be found if the penitentiary perspectives are there. But here you will find that in contrast, it is the stone images. Okay, what Dante saw, it was the spirits were joining, the penitential spirits are joining and raising both its palms as if it said to God, "For aught else I care not." So ultimately, please give me the supplication. Please give me the orientation to life, or please cleanse my soul. The purgation is needed. So there was a kind of a possibility. But when it is the matter with the stone images, and when the dead man's hands are that, the supplication of a dead man's hand is being posited here. So ultimately you will find it is ironically and parodically, the parody has been created. And so there is the no possibility of doing this. And it continues that it is the under the twinkling of a fading star. Again, the orientation of fading star of the previous stanza, now it can be found to be present in the third stanza too. So the question certainly arises, what does it signify? The twinkling of a fading star. Is it not positing, is it not referring to the lack of possibility? As I mentioned in my last lecture, last discussion, that the star and the orientations to star, it actually indicates some possibility towards the salvation. And how it is related, I have discussed it in my last lecture. And then it is being associated with the fading star, the twinkling of fading star. So it cannot be gathered in its totality. Okay, the possibility is gradually fading. Okay, so this is being there. Manjujan points out that in Divine Comedy, Dante's yearning eyes are turned towards the stars of heaven in Purgatorio 8. After being cleansed in purgatory, he is ready to mount to the stars on his journey to paradise. Mary is referred to as the living star there, and the Trinity as a single star. In Eliot's poem, Dante's use of the images are telescoped to signify an ideal or a higher spiritual reality which the protagonists can glimpse but not attain. That's why the orientation of fading star is there. So always we have to consider that the star, this particular image is being associated, is being clarified in terms of the possibility of salvation. And when it is the matter with the fading star, that actually indicates when the possibility is completely being broken or negated. Then the gap, and then it says that is it like this in death's other kingdom, walking alone at the hour when we are trembling with tenderness. So now you will find that the image is continuing with the reference to death's other kingdom. And as I have mentioned, that this death's other kingdom is actually referring to the other side of the river. Okay, it is not death's dream kingdom where the hollow men actually reside. So then the section is it like this in Death's other kingdom, walking alone at the hour when we are, again we, are trembling with tenderness, lips that would kiss from prayers to broken stone. Again the reference to broken stone is there. So ultimately what I'm trying to suggest here, you will find that there is an echo of art as it is being pointed out by Manju Jain, a poem by James Thomson, lips only seeing when they cannot kiss. The line from Thomson held a personal signification for Eliot since he quoted it to conclude the use of poetry and the use of criticism when he spoke movingly of Coleridge's loss of poetic inspiration. The image of the broken stone gathers up the association of a broken column, obviously. Okay, the stone images and the broken jaw that is coming in the next section of this particular poem. So the second portion of this particular stanza, is it like this in Death's other kingdom, walking alone at the hour when we are trembling with tenderness. So that is being associated with some positive perspectives, but the lips that would kiss from prayers to broken stone. So prayer, this particular image is always being classified in terms of something positive, but when it is being associated with the broken stone, then there is a particular reference to or being association with the broken column. The possibility is always there, but it has been fragmented. Ultimately we can find that the reference to the broken column has been already been described in the previous section of this particular poem, that is stanza 2 of this poem, and it actually continues with the next section. You see, this particular orientation is being continuing in the next section of this particular poem, and we will find that when we will go through the poem in detail. Okay, so stay attached and thank you. We will continue this particular lecture in our next videos. Okay.